Number 1.
In 1995, I shared an apartment with my eldest brother. I was only 19 at the time because my parents had to move to the Midwest to take care of my grandmother. My brother worked nights at a hospital. Being his first job in a hospital, he would often try to pick up extra shifts to make more money, so he was rarely home. Being his little sister, I felt like the way I felt with my dad, as he often kept tabs on me and made sure I was safe, etc. He annoyed me a lot, so while he was at work, I could do whatever I wanted, come and go as I pleased. I was free of any rules most of the time. It was great. Until one early morning. I was an avid runner and worked out constantly at the gym with my boyfriend and friends. I was also going to college and had an active social life. The night before, my boyfriend and I stayed at the gym until midnight and then went to his parents' house where he lived. We studied for a few hours and then I decided I'd better go home because his parents wouldn't have wanted me to spend the night, and I had to be at work in a few hours anyway. I was pretty exhausted. I drive home very tired, nearly falling asleep at the wheel. The morning was calm with a thick layer of fog blinding the road. I concentrated and woke up a bit to drive the 10 miles. As I approached the gate to the apartment building parking, I click to open. It opens slowly, and I drive in the second my car can fit through the gate opening, headed for the tandem garage parking space. The fog is really thick, and it was especially dark that night. We always had lights going out in the parking area, and the light in the garage was dim and scotty. I was really annoyed because I had to grab my gym bag and all of my school books, which were tossed in the back seat. I'm collecting all of these items as quickly as possible because it was cold outside and I was groggy. I get my bags out and lock up my car and shut the garage door. I rustle through my backpack to find my keys to the gate and apartment. As I'm getting them out, I drop them to the ground, losing the hold on my backpack. I say something like, "Damn it," and pick it up. At that time, I hear some shuffling near the building as I'm slowly approaching it. I didn't think much of it because it's an apartment and people are coming and going, as they do in big complexes. I have the key ready to unlock the security door. To the left of the door is a large tree and some plants, and a bright security light. The light was on, which was fairly common there as I mentioned earlier. I open the gate slowly and step in. That's when I felt it. A force pulling against my hand. I am now scared, thinking, what the fuck is going on? I pull it harder, trying to pull it closed to lock it, and then I hear a man say,
"Hello, little girl. Let's play."
And some other stuff along those lines. I'm strong, and my legs are like super steel muscles. I pull harder as he's pulling the door to open it. My hand is slipping from the door from sweat and fear. I then place my left foot on the side of the gate and pull the door with all my might. Click. The door locks. I scream loudly as he keeps saying,
"Little girl, little girl."
I can barely see through, but he's stark naked. I scream loudly at this point and run like hell to my apartment. I call 911 right away, and they send a police car out. They check the area and in my garage, finding nothing. A couple of hours later, after not sleeping, I just wanted to go to work to get away from that apartment. I go cautiously to my car, carrying a knife on my side. I get in safely and start driving the 5 minutes to work. As I'm driving, I see him. The same guy. I could tell it was him because of the blonde hair and the wrinkles I remember seeing through the security door. He was hanging out on a lawn in front of a church, just sitting there. As I drove by, he made contact with me, and when I slowed to a second look, I freaked out and kept on my way. I told my boss when I got to work, but didn't call the police. I really should have, but I was young and dumb. I then found out from the apartment's manager that the lights didn't have an electrical problem, but someone kept knocking the lights out, breaking them repeatedly. I can only imagine how many times that man watched me come and go during the late nights and early mornings.
Number 2.
The jump scares, the monster under the bed, your friend dressed up as a man with a knife. These are all pretty damn scary. But I consider these temporary and or mild scares that aren't slow. Oftentimes, it's a harmless scene from a movie or a friend pulling a prank on you that elicits a 5-second shriek. True fear, a pervasive fear that slowly eats away at your conscience, comes out of the unknown. The feeling that deep in the depths of darkness, something is going to take you away. That something is lurking in the shadows. It's the feeling that any second you could be dead. The feeling that a pair of beady eyes are staring right at you, but you can't stare back. My journey began in Montana. It was a November night in 2004, and I was en route to Calgary, Canada. My family comes from Canada, and I was making the drive from my home in Billings to Calgary. The main highways were shutting down in preparation for a snowstorm, and if you dared to drive out in the impending snowstorm. Me, I was a cocky 20-year-old who didn't give a damn. I figured, I was born in Canada, I drive a F-150 and I can handle some snowy roads. Rural Montana is eerie at night, especially the back roads. The main route from Kalispell to Lethbridge, Canada was closed, and I was forced to take a back route, a seemingly endless 2-lane road that probably hadn't been worked on in decades. I remember turning my turn signal on and heading north on that road. It was about 11 PM, and the snow showers were beginning to turn into a windy, snowy mess, with my windshield wipers just barely clearing off the falling snow. I wasn't worried about the weather, nor the ice coating the 2-lane road, nor the health of my mother. No, I was preoccupied with the feeling that something was behind me. You see, the road was entirely straight and cut through a very dense pine forest. The road was devoid of any curves, turns or signs. It was merely a 50-mile-long straight shot through a dense forest. Straight and endless. My brights only exposed the sheer desolation, the isolation of the environment in which I was in. I hadn't seen a single vehicle in half an hour. I felt exposed, yet utterly alone at the same time. To calm my nerves, I inserted a Toby Keith CD into my radio and cranked up the volume. The soothing sound of country guitar was beginning to relax me. It was elevating the feeling of unease. About a minute into the song, the track became jumbled. The guitar solo was abruptly interrupted by scratchy sounds. It was very similar to nails on a chalkboard. It was absolutely unbearable. As I adjusted the volume, my F-150 lost traction on the ice, and within seconds I found my car coming to a screeching halt, my hood trapped in a large snowbank approximately 20 feet off the side of the road. Damn it! I screamed. I turned on my hazards and proceeded to curse like a sailor as I stepped out of the car and into the snowy landscape. The blizzard hindered the visibility to the point where I could hardly see a few feet in front of me. A ferocious icy wind was burning my face, and the feeling of unease only grew. I threw on an extra parka and turned my car off. That's when I heard his voice.
Adam,
he said.
Adam?
It was a voice that absolutely sent shivers up my spine. A voice that caused me to tense up like a marble statue. It was the voice of my father.
Adam, is that you?
I gulped and could barely breathe. My father was a park ranger in Banff, and then at Glacier National Park when we moved to America. When I was 10 years old, he got lost in a snowstorm and was never heard from again. His body was never found, and while the police searched for weeks, he was eventually declared dead. I didn't have time to draw parallels between my situation and his situation, and I let emotion overtake me.
Dad?
I continued.
Dad? Dad? I can't see you.
I can see you just fine.
It said.
Come a little closer.
I froze. The seconds of emotions and adrenaline had abruptly come to a halt. I am a rational man. My father was dead. He had been dead for 10 years. Something else was going on.
Adam, did I stutter? Come with me.
It said.
Come with me. It's nice and warm where I stand. Come with me.
I still couldn't see whatever the fuck was speaking, and I had no time to play games. I hopped in my car and started the ignition. The damn thing wouldn't start.
Adam, your car won't start. It's futile.
It said. The voice was distorted this time. It sounded as if my father had the flu. A real deep, raspy voice. Despite the freezing cold, I could feel nervous sweat dripping from my brow. The slow scare I mentioned was sinking in. I couldn't think. My hands shook relentlessly as I tried to start the car. Against better judgment, I stepped out of the pickup truck and ran the opposite direction. I had never ran faster in my life. The only force keeping my ass from running out of breath was pure fear and adrenaline. Behind me, I heard it calling my name, its voice becoming more distorted each second.
Adam? Adam? Adam?
Within minutes, as the snow relentlessly beat down on me, and as the moon became shrouded by pine trees and snow, I found myself in the middle of a pine forest. Lost. Completely lost. Its voice, however, was slowly disappearing. As it faded into the night, so did my consciousness. The cold had gotten to me, and I hadn't realized it. Before I drifted into an unconscious sleep, I slowly put two and two together. It's November. My dad. November. Snowstorm. Lost forever. Those were my final thoughts before waking up in a Great Falls hospital. Surrounded by doctors, I glanced around me. I was dizzy and dozed in and out of consciousness before finally waking up. I drew a comparison between what happened to my father when I was 10 and the near death I had avoided. I shivered. After minutes of recuperating, the doctor beside my bed explained what had happened. Adam, you're a lucky man. You were found unconscious 200 yards away from a country road. Your body temperature was 88 Fahrenheit. I'm amazed that you seemingly won't suffer any long-term effects. Who found me? I asked, completely dazed, still recalling the thing that had chased me. Well, some man driving to Missoula saw your Ford deep in the trees off the side of the road, your hazards reflecting some light. He heard grounding and found your motionless body in the snow. The doctor continued. I only have one real question before I let you rest and talk to your mother. What drove you to leave your car and turn into a pine forest in the middle of a snowstorm? He coughed and chuckled as he said, I mean, come on. What happened? Did you see a ghost? As he laughed at his corny joke, I thought to myself, I wish I had seen it.
Number 3.
When I was about 3 or 4 years old, there was a man in his 30s who lived with his parents in my neighbourhood named Daryl. He was well known all around the neighbourhood for his eccentric behaviour, as he was declared schizophrenic from his heavy use of drugs. He would talk to himself, play air guitar for hours in the street, and scream obscenities at nothing. He was also very into little girls, and used to wait outside the bus stop just to watch them get off. My mother is a probation officer, and he was quite popular at the court, so whenever he was walking down the street, she would yell for us to come inside. One time, my mum threw out old toys of ours like pink fuzzy boas, wands and tiaras. She heard someone rummaging in the trash at night, but didn't go out to investigate. The next day, Daryl shows up to the court for some charge or another in the boa and tiara we threw out, and said to my mum,
You can find such nice stuff in people's trash cans.
That freaked her out because the way he said it implied that he knew where she lived. A few weeks later, my mum is outside and Daryl approaches her. A week before that, there was a murder at a nearby hotel of a young woman. Daryl said to my mum,
Hey, did you hear about that murder at that hotel?
My mum tells him that yes, she knew. He smiled from ear to ear and just said,
She had 3 little girls too.
He just walked away, laughing to himself. My mum was so creeped out and unnerved that he might have had something to do with the murder that we moved very shortly after this. We never saw him again after that, but his mum shot herself in their house and his father moved out, so I'm pretty sure Daryl isn't around the city anymore. Also, as far as I know, the murder was never solved.
Number 4.
My name is Noah, and I'm currently in 10th grade. Between grades 1 to 6, I used to spend all my time outdoors, but something changed that. It was the middle of the 6th grade, and I was shooting basketball in my driveway. I'm also going to add that I live near a lot of woods. I live in Pennsylvania, and it's not the middle of nowhere, but there are a lot of woods all around my house. When I was shooting basketball, I heard a branch snap in the woods and saw some movement. I am used to deer and other animals since I see them all the time. This was different. It was big, and I could tell from far away. I grabbed my iPod Touch 4th generation out of my pocket, and I ran down my yard to go see what this was, and take a picture of whatever animal was in the woods. Here is the picture that I captured. It still freaks me out looking at this now. I saw this huge black creature crouched down through the trees. My first thought was, wow, cool, a bear. I have to take a picture. So I open the camera app, and as I'm taking the picture, it turns around to look at me. This was no bear. It had a face, a human-like face. The camera was very crappy since it was zoomed in a lot, but it captured it pretty well. This thing stood up, and it was gigantic. It looked at me, then turned around and ran off. I was so scared I didn't go outside for days. I told my parents, and they were pretty freaked out too, but not as much as me. This thing made eye contact with me. We were looking at each other for what seemed like forever, but in reality it probably was only a few seconds. I still don't know what I saw, but I became obsessed with Bigfoot for a few years after that. That's all I did, just look at online videos of Bigfoot. No picture I've ever seen shows a face clearer than mine. You can actually make out an eye, a nose, and a mouth. The creature was hairy everywhere but the face. I don't go outside as much anymore after this experience. I don't think words can describe the fear when I locked eyes with whatever this was. I'm never going to spend a night in the woods ever again after this experience. I've always had this picture on an old flash drive. This is the first time I am ever sharing this story with anyone, other than my family of course. I'll always be different after what happened that day almost 5 years ago. Hey guys, it's the Grim Reader. So, thank you very much for listening through that. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. And if you've got any stories of your own that you want me to narrate, please send it to my email in the description below. Once again, thanks a lot for listening. House where he lived. We studied for a few hours, and then I decided I'd better go home because his parents wouldn't have wanted me to spend the night, and I had to be at work in a few hours anyway. I was pretty exhausted. I drive home very tired, nearly falling asleep at the wheel. The morning was calm with a thick layer of fog blinding the road. I concentrated and woke up a bit to drive the 10 miles. As I approached the gate to the apartment building parking, I click to open. It opens slowly, and I drive in the second my car can fit through the gate opening, headed for the tandem garage parking space backpack. I say something like, "Damn it," and pick it up. At that time, I hear some shuffling near the building as I'm slowly approaching it. I didn't think much of it because it's an apartment and people are coming and going, as they do in big complexes. I have the key ready to unlock the security door. To the left of the door is a large tree and some plants, and a bright security light. The light was on, which was fairly common there as I mentioned earlier. I open the gate slowly and step in. That's when I
Number 1.
In 1995, I shared an apartment with my eldest brother. I was only 19 at the time because my parents had to move to the Midwest to take care of my grandmother. My brother worked nights at a hospital. Being his first job in a hospital, he would often try to pick up extra shifts to make more money. So, the fog is really thick, and it was especially dark that night. We always had lights going out in the parking area, and the light in the garage was dim and scotty. I was really annoyed because I had to grab my gym bag and all of my school books, which were tossed in the back seat. I'm collecting all of these items as quickly as possible because it was cold outside and I was groggy. I get my bags out and lock up my car and shut the garage door. I rustle through my backpack to find my keys to the gate and apartment. As I'm getting them out, I drop them to the ground, losing the hold on my. He was rarely home. Being his little sister, I felt like the way I felt with my dad, as he often kept tabs on me and made sure I was safe, etc. It annoyed me a lot, so while he was at work, I could do whatever I wanted, come and go as I pleased. I was free of any rules most of the time. It was great. Until one early morning. I was an avid runner and worked out constantly at the gym with my boyfriend and friends. I was also going to college and had an active social life. The night before, my boyfriend and I stayed at the gym until midnight and then went to his parents'